Hi, everybody. It's Cindy from Ask Nurse Cindy. My keto extravaganza is ending. We're going to let some people come on line. We get a lot of questions that are FAQs almost.
Yeah. So we thought we would do a live Q&A. So there's two things we want to do. We want to go over a couple things that are some of our most commonly asked questions, and everything from the clinical side of her as a nurse to me as a type 1 diabetic. And then we want to hear from you. So if you have a question, you can start commenting them below. If something strikes you and you want more information, we'll do our best to answer those questions live. But what we'll do is we'll also go through afterwards and answer them just to make sure, because we might not know the answer, to be honest, on the front end. And then we have a couple things we actually want to go over and start off with. So ask Nurse Cindy.
Yeah, and I see we're going to let a few people, we're going to give it about 30 more seconds and let people come on board. So those of you that are on with us, I think we have 11 of you on now. Where are you coming in from?
Yeah,
where you type in where you're from and let us give you a shout out.
What's your beverage of choice in hand right now?
Yeah.
Mine's a lime LaCroix.
And I have mine lemon LaCroix. And these are great. Cheers there. So we are going to go ahead. Let me go ahead and start because I know that it's a Sunday and people have a lot going on. So for Ketogenic, so first off, I'm a registered nurse. My name is Cindy, and this is my daughter, Rachael D., who's type 1 diabetic and is on an insulin pump. And we have successfully, my family as a whole, we've successfully lost over 400 pounds in the last 6 months. Using ketogenic eating as our way of eating. So what we wanted to do today was talk a little bit about some of the basics. Let you ask us questions. So we've got some people commenting there. I don't know if you can read them.
I can read them.
Oh, good, because my old eyes.
They're just telling us what they're from.
Oh, good.
Hi, Susan from Illinois and Amanda from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yay.
Ooh, Susan, you're drinking a Tazo iced tea.
That's
delicious.
Good. They're wonderful. So let me, while we're doing that and you guys are telling us where you're from, I don't have to yell. My daughter says.
Have to yell. That's okay.
As a registered nurse, I'm not here to diagnose, treat, or cure.
Amen.
I'm here to talk to you about my experiences and what I've learned from research I've read and different physicians I've talked to and researchers, PhDs. And then you can make your choice based on informed self-care. If you have a chronic disease or an illness, absolutely you want to be under physician's care.
100%.
But what we'd like to do, I've got a little list of things I want to do, and Rachel's going to sort of keep an eye on the questions as they come through. But I'm going to talk to you first about why low carb, why keto? Why is it something that we've chosen as a family? And I have to thank my sister Debbie Stokes for being the one that really led the way. I think she's down like over 60 pounds. My brother Steve is down over 45. No, 65. He'll kill me if I misquote. My mom and dad are in their 80s. It's my mom's birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Mom. She's 83 years young today.
And she is younger now than she was in
Oh
her
my
50s.
gosh. They are doing great on
so
keto. She's a type 2 diabetic, but she's insulin dependent. So I have two diabetics that I love dearly in my life who are doing great and thriving on a ketogenic way of eating. So why is it that we have chosen to undergo this type of metamorphosis and how we think about food and how we consume food? Well, let's go way, way back to when we were hunter-gatherers. As a species, we are created to survive. It's the whole survival of the fittest. And back before there was refrigeration, if we were to look at the history of mankind, and we looked at that as a 24-hour day, all the history of mankind in one 24-hour day, we've only had refrigeration for the last hour. Most of our history, we did not have refrigeration. So people lived, and they basically pretty much ate one meal a day, and they didn't have the ability to store things that would spoil unless they dried their meats. They would gather nuts and berries when they were in season. And food historians estimate that 70% of the time, they did not have enough glucose to live on carbohydrates and glucose like we do today. The last 50 or 60 years, we've decided, a lot of the medical community decided, and the research is really interesting, it really doesn't have a lot of basis for it, that fat was our problem. That saturated fat especially was what caused us to have heart disease. Well, since we've made that decision to go in a carbohydrate-heavy, low-fat lifestyle, obesity has skyrocketed, heart disease has skyrocketed, chronic disease based on inflammation have skyrocketed, whereas our ancestors lived very successfully for their lack of surgery and things on a hunting-gathering, so a paleo type of lifestyle, where they 70% of their time lived in ketosis versus glucosis. Now, what does that mean? We have two fuel sources. Think of us as a hybrid car. So I can operate on a glucose metabolism where I consume carbs all the time, but that's a quick burning fuel. If you've ever eaten a carb heavy meal, the big joke about Chinese food is I get full, but 2 hours later, well, that's all the rice and stuff. So when we eat primarily glucose in our diet, it's such a quick burning fuel that our blood sugar spikes up, and our blood is always looking to have a stable blood sugar. Insulin comes out and brings it down and pushes that glucose into our fat cells. Our muscles will use what they need. Our vital organs will use what they need, but the rest gets stored as fat. All right? Well, as the blood sugar drops back down, what are you feeling 2 hours after you're hungry?
Starving.
Starving. You're like, oh
Starving.
my God,
my gosh, I just ate an entire pizza and I'm starving.
And I want to eat again.
And you feel guilty.
And then you feel guilty because you eat because you feel driven to eat.
You're so hungry.
Well, that's because your blood sugar's doing this all the time. And
dancing.
It's dancing. And so one of the things that we found when we started looking into this, and it's based in some ways on the Atkins stuff from the early, late 1990s, but when we shift and nutritionally strip away a lot of excess carbs, and the carbs that we do take in are high in value. They're nutrient dense,
like vegetables.
Really
good leafy green, dark
broccoli, cauliflower, good salads with dark lettuce,
kale.
Our blood sugars normalize, and when our blood sugars are not constantly doing this, and we've stripped out so many carbs from our diet, the body goes, wait a minute, I still need fuel. Oh, that's right. I have all of those deposits I made. All the deposits, the fat, is stored energy. I'm going to pull that out. And I'm going to pull out those little packages of fat as triglycerides, and I'm going to break them open, and they're broken open and accessed. Energy is accessed in the liver. And that the triglycerides go into the liver as a fat, and they come out of the liver as a ketone. So that's our second fuel.
Keto!
Yay! So I can use glucose as my fuel, and I can use ketones as my fuel. And that's the only reason our species have survived, is that we had that capacity to tap dance back and forth between ketosis or glucosis-driven metabolism based on what was available to us at the time. So this is not aberrant behavior. This is not wild thinking.
It's not a fad. It's not like, it's like, oh my gosh, all these people are eating keto and
they're going to die.
And it's such a fad, and they're going to, like just gorge themselves on protein. Again, we want to focus when eating ketogenic, and this is a question I get all the time on my page. Okay, so you just eat tons of protein. No. You want to do your research. So we're here as really great tool sets, and we're here to help motivate and inspire you with what we've found. But again, we want to empower you with your own informed self-care. So if you are brand new to this and ketogenic is like a brand new way, Google ketogenic living. If you've got something like me, type 1 diabetes, when we started, I Googled ketogenic and type 1 diabetes so that I was empowered to understand how to transition as a diabetic.
And we transitioned you slowly. Really
slow. But I wanted to mention that ketogenic has 3 main focuses. 1, your fat content is going to be enriched with 70% of your calories coming from good, healthy fats. We're talking avocados, coconut oil, grapeseed oil, none of that really gross vegetable oil that's like canola.
Butter, ghee.
You want to eat the butter. You want to eat the ghee. My mom, I remember telling us when we first started, 1 tablespoon of butter per egg. I'm sorry. What? 1 tablespoon of butter per scrambled egg. I was like, are you joking? But again, 70% of those calories need to be coming from fat. Those of you that are hungry on keto, you're not eating enough fat. You're just not. You're probably not tracking your macros. Number 2, you want to do moderate proteins. There's some really great macro calculators. We're not here to be able to do that for you. So we love you, but we don't have the time to do that.
There's Dr. Adam Nally has a great website, Dr. Adam Nally, docmuscles.com. Great calculator there, a great keto calculator.
So you want to do about 20 to 25% of your calories coming from protein. And we average that about 50 to 55 grams of protein a day. It's pretty average for a typical, woman. But again, if you are like that detailed, specific, I need all of the details, you need to go find a calculator and just figure it out.
And look, and they're based on your height, your gender, your age, things like that. And then we try to keep our carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, meaning the green leafy vegetables,
Good
at about
nutrient
20
dense. Yeah.
for me. Now, Rachel, you do a little bit higher carbohydrate content.
As a type 1 diabetic, and again, I'm pretty close to my goal weight. I have some body fat that I'm continuing to shed, but I'm closer. I don't have, my husband has a lot more weight to lose, that he's got some pretty big goals. My mom had some pretty big goals.
I still do. I still have 40
They've lost,
to go.
40, 50, 60, 80 pounds. When you have that much, I needed to lose maybe 20 or 25. And as a type 1 diabetic, I feel more comfortable with averaging between 30 and 35 carbohydrates a day.
And your blood sugars are great.
Blood sugars are much better. When I need to, if I'm feeling bloated and I need to trim down a little bit, or if I just want to fit into a dress that I'm wearing for a wedding, I can cut back down to 20. You're going to burn more fat at about 20 carbs a day. You can go, some people, all the way up to 50 carbs and still stay in ketosis. So again, you're empowered to figure out what works best for your body. And you got to play around with it. There's no magic number. So those of you that are like reaching out to us and asking us all these great questions, they're fantastic questions. But again, you get to figure out what works best for your body. So again, 70% fat, about 20% protein, and 5% carbs. You want to keep those carbs low, as low
and
as
good
you can.
carbs, not crap. If
Please,
when you eat your carbs,
please don't still eat donuts.
No.
Please don't still eat pizza and think like, I'm going to stay in ketosis.
Unless it's fathead pizza or pizza like we showed on our video the other night, which was just glorious. We were euphoric afterwards. So how do you start? What you want to do is you want to take away out all processed carbs. Breads, pastas, rice, your potatoes, strip away your breakfast cereals, your oatmeal, thing like that, and look for a good, we got on Rachel's website, racheld.com, or her Facebook page as well as mine. Scroll down. Over the months, we've added a lot of links, we've added shopping lists, we have getting started things.
And here's one of the best things, that if you have been a part of social media for any time, Pinterest. Pinterest is your ketogenic best friend. Now, my website is growing and some recipes and some getting started guides. We're about to launch Ask Nurse Cindy's website. But go to Pinterest, and if you're craving pizza, keto pizza. If you're craving cookies, Google keto cookies.
She makes fantastic peanut butter cookies.
Oh my
keto.
gosh. Now that's at my website, and they're Mama's Old Fashioned peanut butter cookies. But again, do some research. You have the internet right at your fingertips. There's never been another time in history that we've had that much accessibility to find what we need.
Exactly right. So you start by stripping those out. You increase your fat. If you are hungry, there's these things called fat bombs, and they are coconut oil and butter and peanut butter or cocoa, and you make them and you have them in your freezer and you pop some of those. They're going to change your life. There's all sorts of recipes. And Rachel made some. She had these little fudge-sickle molds, and they made a fat bomb with a coffee in it.
It's like a fudge sickle. It's like a fudgy pop.
I wouldn't let her take a picture of me after I ate one, because I had it was like glorious. So there's wonderful recipes when you have that sweet tooth and that craving. So when are you going to go into ketosis? People ask me that all the time. So it'll typically take you, once you've stripped out your carbs down to about 20 grams a day, to about 3 to 5 days till your body switches over into burning ketones as its fuel. So for those 3 to 5 days, you're going to want to kill everyone. You're just not going to be a happy person because you're detoxing.
You're detoxing sugar.
It's okay.
Sugar is like heroin.
It lights up your brain like that. Yeah. There's research that shows, if you look at Dr. Stephen Finney's work, or you look at some of this stuff by Dr. Eric Westman out of Duke, they have got some amazing things that sugar is actually as addictive. It lights up the same center of your brain and releases dopamine as cocaine or alcohol. So you are going to be detoxing. And people undergo oftentimes what's called the keto flu, if you've heard of that. It's not a flu like the flu, but it is where you feel like crap.
And that's normal. If you start any program that you are restricting any kind of starchy, white, addictive, anything, you just go through that. Now, we do have some supplements that we take that help to reduce those symptoms. And again, you guys have heard us talk all weekend just about the different exogenous ketones that we do drink that can help lessen your symptoms.
That would actually help them during the,
to
I hadn't thought of that.
in. So we'll post that link below. You can go, to some sites and just get some more information. Again,
we'll post
it's
a link,
helpful, but you're still going to detox. So there's no way out.
You are. So during that time, it's important that you do a couple of things. It's important that you go. My low low power
We're
mode.
okay. Just low power mode.
It's important that you drink some chicken broth or some bouillon that is heavy in salt. Hydrate yourself very, very well.
100 ounces a day.
Lots of water. Make sure you're getting in enough protein and enough fat. If you feel like you really just need to eat something, eat protein and fat.
Yeah.
Don't go and go off the deep end and go into the carb world again, because you're just going to have to start all over again.
And some people don't experience I didn't experience dramatic effects of the keto flu. She really did. And again, because I'm a type 1 diabetic, we really try to stay away from a lot of starchy carbs, and we transitioned really slow. So again, if you don't experience it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But
my daughter Lauren, her sister Lauren, was like, it was. Of course, she had the Keto drink to help her.
She did.
And I was like, well, she's like, Mom, this was easy. I said, yeah, but we didn't know about Ketoacidosis when we went through this, and hers was a slow transition. Yeah. But be careful during that time. The keto flu is oftentimes because as you are letting go of all that fluid toxins your body has held on and all the toxins, you're diuresing. That's a medical term for peeing a lot. You're going to run to the bathroom a lot. Because of that, you're going to lose sodium. All right, so glucose causes us to hold on to fluid, and you're going to go to the bathroom a lot, and you're going to lose some sodium. Inside of our cells, we have this thing called the sodium-potassium pump. As we lose sodium, potassium will follow. So oftentimes, you're going to need to supplement with a good multivitamin during the beginning, actually the whole time you're on keto. A good multivitamin. A potassium supplement, and maybe even some extra magnesium. Check with your physician, check with the websites. There's a lot of physicians out there now. Eric Westman from Duke, Dr. Adam Nally, Dr. Heather Carden. There's a lot of great websites where you can go and get medical advice versus from a nurse. So take your vitamins. Now, some of you, and I do, still sometimes suffer from muscle cramps, especially if I've been on a plane on a long flight and I'm not hydrating well enough. That's oftentimes due to low magnesium and or low potassium. So make sure you hydrate, you drink, and take those supplements as we talk about. Other times people will say, oh my gosh, I'm worried about becoming constipated on this diet. What do I do? Well, of course, there's fiber supplements. There's the Benefiber and the clear things that you can stir in. But one of the main reasons is that because you're losing so much water, you are not pulling enough water into your intestines to keep your poop, your stool, soft enough. And so the longer it's in your intestines and you're not drinking enough water because you don't have enough sodium, don't be afraid of salt on this diet.
Salt's your friend.
Unless you're in stage renal failure, you've got bad renal disease or something, you have to add extra salt. Dr. Adam Nally talks about literally sometimes, and Dr. Eric Westman from Duke, an extra gram or two a day. So when you add that salt back in, you'll pull more fluid into your gut, and you're not going to be constipated as often.
So in layman's terms, that means, one, that fat is your friend, and you want to increase that fat. And number two, and something my husband and I still struggle with, to just mentally, we were told just a little bit of salt growing up. Salt is going to be beneficial if you're experiencing some of these things. You know, when I'm like, oh, Mom, I'm constipated. You know, she'd be like, you're not getting enough salt. And again, if you do have kidney, function disorders, please just make sure. If you have anything extreme going on, just check with your doctor.
Yep, exactly. And the other thing we hear is, oh my gosh, as I've added fat, now I have diarrhea. So we're going to have both ends of the scale sometimes. Now that is oftentimes due, especially if you've had your gallbladder out like I did. Your gallbladder is simply like your gas tank for bile. Bile is what helps you digest fat. So you may need to add, now first, fat adaptation takes a little bit of time. Back off in your fat just a little bit, or more often, take some lipase, Lipase. It's a digestive enzyme you can buy over the counter, and it will help if you take that with your fatty meal. It will give you the enzymes needed to break that fat down so you're not greasing the skids and everything's just whooshing right on out. Although that's a nice cleanse.
It is a nice cleanse. I dealt with constipation more, so good job.
And then, here's one. I've been on keto. I was losing weight rapidly, and now the scales have just stopped moving. What about that?
No, that's okay.
Okay, that's a message. So why is that? Should I just give up? No, it's not working.
Right.
Watch my water balloon video. Go into my video section. Click on that. And I will tell you that, especially if you're a woman, I'm almost 60 years old. If you're a woman and you are on a ketogenic eating plan,
Yeah.
here's a couple of things that's happening. When I'm on a low calorie, low fat eating plan, it's not muscle sparing. So I lose muscle as well as fat.
Yeah.
And that problem with that is that with yo-yo dieting, which I've done my entire life, I'm a big yo-yo, up and down, up and down, up and down. The more I'm on a low calorie diet and I lose muscle, my metabolic rate goes down.
Yeah.
This is not muscle burning. This is muscle sparing eating ketogenic. So I'm going to actually start to add muscle mass. I'm going to actually increase my bone density while my fat stores are going down.
Yeah.
So I've got this change in body composition,
that's
and I have to trust my measurements, how my shirts are fitting. Is my belt looser? Do my pants hang? Am I getting a baggy butt?
Yeah.
We did a video earlier today about how to buy clothes economically while you're on this weight loss journey. But please don't trust the scales.
Yeah. And we were even as she got into town Friday night, and the three of us hadn't seen each other since Thanksgiving. You know, we call it Thankmas because we combine Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
But we were all roughly the same weight, but we're all smaller now.
Oh my gosh.
We're in smaller pants. We're in smaller shirts. We're having to take in our shirts. You know, there's so many things that have changed, and that recomposition is so real. You know, even my husband, he stalled his weight every morning. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Don't worry. It's okay. They're going to keep... Aunt Debbie, stop it. You're gonna stall in your weight at times, but you just got to focus on how are your clothes fitting. And if you are stumbling over that scale and you think I shouldn't be eating as much, I shouldn't be consuming as much fat, stop it. Eat the fat, increase the fat, and watch how your clothes are fitting, and drink water.
Yes.
Flush out those toxins, drink a bunch of water.
Now, do you want to scroll and look and see if there's any
Let's see
messages
this. So,
here?
I'm going to open up, and we're going to...
I'm going to look and see.
No,
okay.
I got it here.
Good. Stacy, I refuse to weigh or measure because I'll just quit. I'm getting nowhere. Yeah. Stacy, that's the best way to do it. You don't want to weigh. I definitely like to try on my clothes once a week because it gives me a lot of motivation. Something that wouldn't button is now starting to button. So we're going to go back up to the top and scroll. So bear with us.
There were some great questions about... Okay, you sit
I'll
back,
sit
and I'm
back.
going to read them back.
Okay.
Okay. So this is live in my living room. Okay, as a type 1 diabetic, how does your nutritional ketosis state not become ketoacidosis? This is a question we get all the time.
It's a good question. It's a
Ask
very,
her,
very
Cindy.
important question.
Why don't you tell
Okay.
them what my
So-
body went through when I started to enter into nutritional ketosis?
Right. So ketoacidosis will only occur in uncontrolled diabetes where I have an increasing level of ketones beyond the therapeutic range, because it's all measured in milliosmoles. I think millimoles is what they call it.
Yes.
And I have no insulin. All right. So in a diabetic, when they get really, really sick with a high fever and the flu.
And this is predominantly in type 1 diabetics.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's very, very rare with a type 2 unless they've been one for a long time and they're insulin. They're on insulin too. But let's say when she was 5 years old and she would get the GI flu and she'd be vomiting and having diarrhea and she couldn't eat anything.
Right.
And I would, not knowing, I thought, okay, then I can't give her any insulin. Well, because she wasn't eating and I wasn't giving her insulin, she had a double whammy. Her body needed energy, so it was pulling the fat stores out, breaking them open and making ketones. And because she's type 1 and she doesn't make any of her own insulin, and I wasn't giving her an insulin shot, I had no insulin, so there was a total lack of insulin and increasing ketones. So the ketones kept going up, and the pH of her blood actually became acidotic.
Yeah.
So ketoacidosis is
rare.
only in the absence of insulin and ever increasing ketones.
Yeah.
If you're type 1, there's a couple of great websites.
Sorry. We had a phone call
Dr.
come
Eric
through.
Westman from Duke treats diabetics. Google him.
Yeah.
Watch his wonderful videos about how he treats diabetics to help them reduce and dramatically lower their insulin, because as a diabetic, if I'm asking you to take, as a doctor, 50 grams of carbs per meal and 15 to 20 at your snack time, then you have to take insulin for that, and then that's going to cause that to be pushed into your cell, and you're never going to be able to lose weight.
No,
it's so hard.
it's for a type 1 diabetic, it's been nearly impossible for me in anything I've ever done to lose weight. So for me to drop 17 pounds, and again, I'm short and I'm pretty
and drop your
petite,
basal rate.
and and that's what I was going to get to. What I've been noticing is that, one, we have two different, I'm on an insulin pump, okay, so I have a continuous glucose monitor. It checks my blood sugar every 5 minutes to tell me how I'm doing. My basal rate is what every 5 minutes it drips a tiny amount of insulin, similar to a pancreas. What I bolus is what I take with my meals. One, my basal rate is so low. It's so low. And then number two, my bolus, because I'm not eating a lot of carbs at each meal, maybe 5, 6, at most 10 per meal. I'm click, 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 and it's like 0.27 units of insulin needed, you know, but sometimes when it's a pure fat meal or it's a fat bomb or just a snack, I don't even need to bolus anything. So not only have I been able to change my metabolic state and my body, my metabolism has shifted, my amount of insulin, I'm literally down to a third of the amount I used to have to take when I was eating all of those carbohydrates all day long.
And how's your A1C?
Now my A1C is down to 6.4, which is pretty amazing for a diabetic, a type 1. And the other thing that I've noticed is, and again, some type 2 diabetics might associate with this, and we really didn't pick up on this until a few weeks ago, I used to get a very specific headache that borderlined a migraine. And we thought they were migraines because they're so debilitating in how they would feel. And now that my body's been fat adapted, I've been in ketosis for about 7 months now, I don't rarely get those headaches unless I get sick or something happens. My blood sugars start to creep up. And I'm like, whoa, there's that headache that I grew up with because I had all these carbs racing through my bodies. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, but you know, whole grain brown rice is good and complex carbs and oatmeal, that's fine, and some bodies can tolerate that. My body would shut down, my blood sugar would spike up to 300, then I'd stay there for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours.
She was miserable.
And it wouldn't be able to come down.
She was miserable.
So again, diabetics, you have to be careful because the minute I do get sick, or if my blood sugars start to creep over 250 and I'm not coming back down, I have to be real careful that I don't slip into ketoacidosis, which is different than nutritional ketosis. So again, you do need to be really informed and really careful and taking your insulin. And so, you know, we have different things and different just...
Yeah, tell them about your ophthalmologist visit.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
oh my gosh.
About a year and a half ago, and I've just had some health complications the last few years, so we've just been through the gamut. And they found, again, you have to be real careful with your eyes as a diabetic, and you have to be careful with your feet and the way your body's processing. They found a little blood spot on my eye. I went back for my, you know, annual checkup. And
after being on ketogenic.
After being on ketogenic for about 6 months, and this is just a little bit ago. And she's looking, and she sees in the chart the blood spot, and I had gone to a retinal specialist and everything. Let's just keep an eye on it. She's looking. She's like, huh? And I'm like, what? Because I knew what she was looking for. She goes, let me look again. She's looking. She's like, huh? And I'm like, oh no, it's bad. Like I'm thinking like, oh, it's like
my
expanded.
retinopathy's gotten horrible.
Oh no,
yeah.
you know? And she goes, the blood spot's gone.
Is that good?
Is that good? I mean, what? She goes, I don't really know what to do with you right now because this doesn't happen in type 1 diabetics. Like, they don't, that spot just doesn't disappear. And I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And I was kind of excited. I was like, well, is that good? She goes, that's good, but I just don't know what to do with you right now.
She never sees it.
And her daughter is a type 1 diabetic as well. So I called my mom, and she's like, oh my gosh, did you know the regenerative benefits of ketogenic and what that's doing for all those little capillaries in your eyes?
Yeah.
And so
it's really exciting. So if you're either metabolic syndrome, you've been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, type 1 or type 2, I did a video using a frisbee and ping pong balls about how what you choose to eat impacts your A1C. And it is impressive that when we voluntarily reduce our nutritional intake of carbohydrates, how much we can free up what's called glycation. It's where sugar sticks to our hemoglobin molecule. And sugar is actually, there's a lot of great research out there. You can Google this, inflammation and glucose versus inflammation on ketones.
Yeah.
And one of the things that researchers are starting to say is that our constant overuse of carbohydrates has led to a lot of our inflammatory diseases, PCOS, the irritable bowel syndrome, migraines, a lot of things that are arthritis or inflamed base, chronic fatigue. There's
a body of evidence that's coming out in the scientific community is that if those people were to strip out a lot of those simple sugars and carbs, a lot of the inflammation reduces itself. And the same thing with diabetics. Diabetics have, or people with insulin resistance, have a problem with carbohydrate metabolism.
Yeah.
If you know anybody with a peanut allergy, they have a problem with peanut metabolism. They cannot do it. They have to carry an EpiPen.
Lactose intolerance.
Yes.
They're intolerant.
Right. So if you had a peanut allergy, I would never say to you, well, go ahead and just have that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but give yourself some epinephrine. Yet we say to diabetics all the time, have all those carbs, just increase your insulin. What if we could help you, or you could help yourself?
And
we're not going to help you. You help yourself.
Insulin is a fat store. Insulin pushes fat into the cells. And so we have all of these overweight type 2 diabetics, type 1 diabetics that I have no choice. I have to take insulin. I have to manually inject that. I have to take it in my pump. And then we're struggling with guilt and remorse and feeling like we're less than and we're not doing good enough and we should eat less and whatever. And it's really all that insulin we have to take because of all the carbs we're eating. And we're just pushing
balance
that fat
it out.
into the
Even
cells.
if you dropped your carbohydrates down, now you have to do it slowly and carefully.
I started
It's
at
best
50. I started at 50 carbs a day. Then I went down to 45.
because
and
you
each
don't want to
week-
bottom out.
And you want to figure out, and you got to really watch your insulin levels. You know, so those of you that do have any kind of diabetes, you just got to watch that. So let's move on to another question. What about cholesterol, Cindy? High cholesterol that this way of eating sometimes causes?
I'm so glad you asked. So there's a fantastic book out called Cholesterol Clarity with Jimmy Moore, Moore. And we were led to believe way back in the time of probably the 60s, early 70s, that fat is what caused our cholesterol to go up. Well, what they're actually realizing, and that Cholesterol Clarity book is a fantastic read. I recommend you get that. Or listen to some of the podcasts by Jimmy Moore, by Dr. David Diamond, by Dr. Eric Westman, by Dr. Adam Nally. And actually what is causing all the HDL and the LDL disruption is that inflammation from too much glucose. So my cholesterol was 195 when I started on this, and it's down to 160. So that is fantastic. And person after person on this takes a couple of months, of course, but fat is not what causes our cholesterol to go up. It's so important to our mental health. It's so important to our cellular structure that our body will actually produce it if we don't eat enough of it. It just produces the type we don't want. So even saturated fat is not something to be afraid of. Any other questions? I know we've been on
Aaron,
for a while.
Aaron asked, do you eat lean meats or fish at all too? You know what, Aaron? Eat the fatty meats. Honestly, chicken thighs, salmon, smother it in butter.
If you eat tilapia, just put a bunch of butter on it.
A bunch of butter because, again, you want to focus on that fat. So we suggest chicken thighs versus chicken breast or chicken tenderloins. If you don't like that thigh taste, that's fine. But make sure you add a cream to it, whether you dip it in mayonnaise, that's what my sister-in-law does, or you just drown it in butter. So that's a really great question. Okay, so we've got Verito, 11-year-old, is type 1 diabetic. Hi, good to meet you. What about people with gluten intolerance? Hi.
Yeah.
I have borderline celiac disease as well because I'm a hot mess. So what I find is that ketogenic is almost naturally a gluten-free lifestyle. Some people use some low carb baking stuff. I just don't. I focus on high fats. I focus on good proteins and lots of good veggies. And if you have a gluten intolerance, you're probably already familiar with checking your ingredients. Check your ingredients for two things: wheat, any gluten byproduct, and sugar. Keep those carbs low, and literally it is one of the easiest ways of eating. We don't call it a diet, we call it a way of eating. It's a lifestyle for people that are gluten intolerant.
And you do some baking though, but what do you use instead
I use almond flour for baking, and we use all sorts of natural sweeteners as well. You can take a look at all sorts of stuff we have on our pages about that. We talked about the potassium and magnesium electrolytes. Make sure you're getting your electrolytes. Again, that salt is going to benefit that. If you get low or if you're out in the sun, just make sure you're really, drinking that and packing that in. How long did it take you, Cindy, to lose your 50 pounds?
So I started in late May. I started under doctor's supervision, and she's in San Antonio, Texas, and she actually is the one that put me on, she actually checks for ketones when I come in, and then I just continued on. So it's been about, May, 6 or 7 months. And at first I was all worried when I wasn't losing weight, when I would have these stalls. But I am at the point, because this is a lifestyle. So I always fussed at her, not at her, but with her. She thinks I'm a hoot. But I was with her, and I'd only lost I think it was 6 pounds in the last 3 months. But my clothing size has changed so much.
She's wilting.
And she goes, okay, Cindy, so if in 3 months you lost 6, and so the next 3 quarters you lose 6, 6, 6, 6, you'll have lost another 18. And so in a year, would you be happy if you? Yeah. And I'm like, you're right.
Instead of gaining 18 pounds,
because I'm never going back to eating garbage again.
We just can't.
We can't eat the garbage. No garbage for us.
Even when we do, and we've had times. I got sick a few months back and had I was in the hospital and I had to go eat a bunch of carbs. Headaches came back, inflammation came back, all of that joint pain. I mean, I felt stiff. I felt like
the hospital's like, no, you gotta have carbs.
I know,
so funny.
Denise, that's really awesome. Congrats on losing 70 pounds.
Oh my gosh, Denise, congrats.
Doctor supervision. Do you feel that that's best?
I think you always want to be 100%. Under a doctor's care. And there are physicians. I think Dr. Eric Westman has a list of physicians who are ketogenic friendly across the nation. And you can look, and I've got one in San Antonio. If you guys live there, I'll recommend her to you. And they're scattered. This growing.
And you, again, Google ketogenic doctors. Just do some searches.
I'm telling you, there's people at Harvard, MIT, Cleveland Clinic, Duke. There's people out of the University, I believe, of San Francisco that are doing research on it, and there's doctors there that will help you. So if you live in any of those major, and even some of the smaller ones, a naturopath. But yes, we're not telling you to drop your meds or stop anything. We want you under doctor's care.
Do not stop your meds.
Oh, please. We want you to be careful and to be logical. Do your own research. Be careful how you approach this. It's nothing you have to do overnight, especially if you have some chronic medical conditions. So that's a good question. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. So again, we talked about how many grams of fat. Do you have an average that you try to consume, or do you have an app? I like to use MyFitnessPal to track my macros.
I don't track my macros anymore.
We really we know what works for us. We know what we need to eat.
I did it first. Yeah.
So, okay, go to MyFitnessPal on your phone, right here on your phone, and download MyFitnessPal, and then you can track all of your food. And then there's a nutrition button, and then there's a macros button. Okay, you can figure this out. I have faith in you.
And my battery's low.
And you can, it is low. You can track those things that way. So just Google it. Let's see.
Yeah, but probably 80 to 100. My battery's down to 10%. So if this thing suddenly ends without us saying goodbye to you, that's because it.
Okay, does Keto have a food pyramid to replace the existing at a date? You flip it upside down.
You just flip it upside down.
You literally flip it upside down. You avoid the carbs and you increase those fats. Literally, it's an upside down.
There's some great images on Google about the reversed pyramid. Yeah.
All right. Some doctors.
Gosh, we're so appreciative of all you guys being on with us and all the different people that have joined us this weekend. I'm flying back home. I'm really sad, but I get to go to my other daughter who's now ketogenic as well.
Yes, exactly.
So Lauren is just doing amazing. And I went to hug her the other day, and it was like, oh my gosh, my arms are just like. So I'm just so proud of her.
So I think we covered some of those basics. Again, we'll go through some of these questions, and if there's ones that we're able to answer, we will. And if it's just a generalized question that you can Google it, we probably won't answer it. But if you have anything else to say, I think
guys
these are
awesome.
Some really
we're
great.
So proud of each and every one of you for trying to have better health. Informed self-care is my goal with Ask Nurse Cindy, and I know with her, with Rachel D, holistic living and seeking a better way to be healthy naturally. So we thank you guys so much for everything you do to support us. And
the only reason we're getting off is because our friends about.
I know
we would keep going, but we're going to do this more and more. So make sure that you pop over to my page at Rachael D, and we have lots of videos coming out for you. And her website's going to be up soon.
Yay!
All right, you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.